Introducing the Paddy Power World Darts Championships.
Welcome back to Online Darts. We're here for part of our World Championship build-up, and of course we had to get prime time on. Mate, it's that time of year now, isn't it, where we can all get excited.
Yeah, and for the players, they've been getting excited for this for quite some time now. As someone who's played in that event 3 times, the second you know your qualification's confirmed, you start looking forward to it. And you hear it all year round where people sort of count it down when we get to the Grand Prix and they're like, oh, it's a couple of months on the horizon. This happens all the way through for the players, so, and everyone's qualifying at different positions. So it's been one of those situations for the players now where they've been looking forward to this for quite some time.
Luke Humphries is very much the man on a mission, the man on everyone's lips. 3 wins out of 4 on TV. Is he the man to beat?
I don't see how he can't be. I don't see how you can oppose him. That's the issue we've got here. Luke Humphries has not won the Worlds. He's not got too close to winning the Worlds, in fact. But if we take what he's doing at the moment, who's going to stop him? And that's the problem. I look at it and I think, maybe not this year for Luke, but then I think, how can it not be?
I get that, but the World Championships is a different pressure. It's all right getting over the line in a Grand Prix, in a Players' Championship, in a Grand Slam, but this is completely different. You've obviously been there. This is like nothing else, is it? This is a different type of pressure.
It is, but I think a lot of that comes purely internally. So Luke Humphries is someone I've spoke to at length about this, and when we both talk about our debut, because we both debuted roughly around the same sort of time, and we actually played in the World Championship. So he went on against Adam Hunt before me, and then I went on against Darius Labanauskas the game after. So we had a lot of time together, and we sort of built a friendship. And Luke Humphries said exactly the same as I did, that actually, despite what all the media and what everyone says, when you first walk on that stage, you actually feel nothing. And I think a lot of that comes down to the fact that you try and build up the situation and you're trying to suppress it. And you think, like, stay calm, stay calm, stay calm. Because eventually the atmosphere is going to take over, and it doesn't. And I think one of the things I learned very quickly about playing on the stages was it has to come from inside. That's why we see Gerwyn Price play the way he does. He's probably another player that when he gets on there has that same issue. And you see Luke Humphries now just goes in them games with a little bit of a different sort of psyche, and just the way he even walks on the stage, the way he greets the crowd, the way he does all these different things, all now part of that process to try and get that feeling.
Luke said the Players' Championship win was the best because he beat Michael van Gerwen in the final. Is that a huge statement for Luke to send out on the eve of the World Championships, beating MVG in a final?
Yeah, it's one of those things. Remember before, like, if you won a tournament but Taylor got knocked out in the other half, it kind of got almost negative press. So like, oh, would you have done it if Taylor's done it? So, you know, Van Gerwen, he's still the man to beat. You know, ask him, he'll tell you all about it. You know,
his exact words were, when we spoke to him in the media day, was Luke didn't win that, I gave it to him. No credit to Luke, as in a nice way. It's like, I gave it to him, he didn't win it straight away.
And you know, that's a way of sort of bouncing back in that sort of psyche. It's interesting. This is why darts is in the best place it's ever been when you look at how many players there are that can sort of do stuff. But for me, it's still Van Gerwen's the superstar of darts.
On that, it's a real interesting one, because where do you think his game is right now? Because we've seen flashes of absolute genius, like vintage Van Gerwen. I remember the final session in Poland where it was 110, 112, 111, 3 games in a row. But then we've seen the match play performance and things like that. So where do you think he is?
I was sat at Sky Sports Studios about 7 months ago now. I was sat doing a podcast with Emma Patton and I think it was Abby Davies at the time. And the topic of Van Gerwen came up, and I made a bold claim then. I says, Michael van Gerwen will go into 2024 as the world #1. I'm going to stick with that. I don't think he's had the year I expected him to have. That's obviously gone the way of Luke Humphries. But you know how heavily weighted the World Championship is. And with the money that's coming off of people like Michael Smith, who's defending a final, I would not be surprised to still see Van Gerwen pick up that world #1 spot.
Well, it's interesting you say that. The world #1, like you say, is very heavily weighted with the World Championship win. Since he lost it, he's obviously not regained it back, but he's now within striking distance without a World Championship win on that ranking. That says a lot, and that's very hard to do.
And Luke Humphries the same. Two players that are very, very close to that world number one spot. Yes, the PDC have put more investment in events such as the match play, the UK Open. These have all gone up in relation to the prize money, but it just shows who's winning the most tournaments on a pro rata sort of basis. Van Gerwen and Humphries are the two players to beat.
You're slightly concerned about the defending champion Michael Smith right now, because there are huge question marks that he's not in any kind of form right now, where last year he was on his crest of the wave after winning the Grand Slam, where now it's a real struggle for him.
But it's still Michael Smith. That's the thing. And Michael Smith is one of those sort of enigma players that out of nowhere will go up and break the 180 record in a match, come off stage with a ton-plus average, and we all go, what was the problem? And he sits there and goes, I told you not to panic. So we've seen this a million times with Michael Smith. He's completely on feel and rhythm, and there'll be no greater feeling than walking into that venue on the opening night as the defending champion, and all those good memories will come flooding back, I'm sure. I expect he'll be on it.
As a year as a whole, how would you sum 2023 up in darting terms?
I think it's been the greatest year of darts ever for everybody, from an amateur player to a fan who just watches darts, to a part-time player, to a full-time player. This year has been the absolute pinnacle of darts, and I just hope that it continues in the vein it is.
Gary Anderson, a man that is absolutely on this high again. We all thought he was swanning off into the distance and we were going to say goodbye to him, but he's arguably been one of the top 5 players this year, where he's had remarkable form on the Pro Tour, playing on the Euro Tour again, beat Gerwyn Price on a major stage, and we all know how much he loves Ali Pali. Is he a massive danger?
Take your pick of how you're going to judge the top players of the year. Is it on wins? Is it on averages? Regardless of which one you use, Gary Anderson is in the top 5, absolutely. Especially even over the last couple of months. I actually thought he was going to win a TV title towards the back end of this year. There's only one left. And this is what's so exciting about this year's World Championship, because look how many runners and riders there are, and people that we can actually say that player could win the World Championship. And we're not overestimating it, we're not over-egging it, we're not just trying to sell a story. It's a genuine possibility, and there is a genuine possibility here. Gary Anderson could be the World Champion.
Yeah, I want to get bits around the other World Championships, things that have gone on. Obviously, it was broke in September that the PDC said no, you can't play in both. They were going to enforce the Tottenham rule that was put in X, Y and Z. Were you surprised about this? Because people have played in both before. This hasn't always been emphasised to the way it perhaps should have been. So were you surprised they took the decision to enforce it now?
It was just the first time the PDC's had to enforce it, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's normally been the other way round, that their tournament comes first and the WDF or the BDO came second. So it's just because the WDF changed the calendar and moved it back. Now, I get it, because you've got to also protect your tour card holders. Where's the value in being a PDC tour card holder, having to go and win it at Q School, then go and play in a seeded system every single week of the calendar year to try and qualify for the World Championships, while somebody else gets the opportunity to qualify for that and gets a chance to play in another World Championships as well. So I don't think it's fair on those tour card holders who have missed out on the World Championship, who have played in that seeded system. The other thing to remember is, in the PDC players' contract, there's a little clause in there, and that clause states that you cannot play in any tournament that has the word world in its title. So again, if you're going to contract your PDC players and say you can't play in a tournament that's got the word world in it, and then all of a sudden you're going to let part-time members or associate members come in and give them that luxury of doing so, again you devalue your own contract. So it protected the players, and I was glad to see it.
Not many people probably know that it is in there. That's a real interesting...
There's your headline.
No, it's an insight, because I didn't know that. Obviously I've never seen a player's contract, I'm not that good, so it's interesting to see that is actually in the contract. And the world is that the key point in that?
Yeah, you can't play in something called with world in the title. So if they was to do a World Online League, you couldn't play in it because the word world.
That's really interesting.
There's always little insights.
That's a really interesting thing that they've put in. We call it Rule 1.
Yeah.
Barry's always right. But then also on that, Beau made a decision, as we're recording this, she's still in Lakeside, by the way. This probably won't go out until after
she's won it.
Until Beau's won
Lakeside, there we go.
The second Lakeside title. What does it say for the PDC, the fact that the female that has dominated their system holds their only TV title, basically went, up you, I'm going somewhere else to play. So that caused them a bit of an issue, because going forward, this isn't going to change. That Lakeside is always going to be first now before the PDC World Championship, and the likelihood is Beau is always going to have to make this decision.
The PDC is the platform, and they offer a platform and they offer an opportunity for Beau Greaves to cash in on the success she's had and play in the World Championships. The World comes up again. It's the Women's World Championships. And granted, I get what Beau's doing. I would have done exactly the same if I was Beau. Absolutely. Look at the draws that have come out in that World Championship. She would have to go up against one of the top 32 players of the Pro Tour Order of Merit. So this is players that have won a tour card and players that are in the top 32 of that system, who's played in a seeded system with the top 32 players in the world. She went in there last year, played William O'Connor, lost 3-0. For her to win £25,000, she'd have to beat the non-seed and then beat a seed. So one of the top 32 Pro Tour players and one of the top 32 players in the world, just to get the same element of money. And what would, if she did that, it'd be great for a story now, and it'd be big, but in 5 years' time, who's going to go, remember when Beau Greaves made the 3rd round? But that legacy of being world champion will follow around forever. So I think this is going to be something we don't really see Beau Greaves at Ali Pali until the WWF no longer exists, which I don't see it going anywhere at the moment.
Very interesting. On the same topic, you said that you think Beau made the right decision. Did Luke Littler make the right decision?
I'm going to answer this 2 ways. As a 16-year-old, absolutely. You tell me, as a 16-year-old me, you're going to go on Sky Sports, on Ali Pali stage in front of a sellout crowd, hundreds of thousands watching around the world, probably millions worldwide, guaranteed £7,500. It wouldn't have been a question. I'd have done that. But you ask me now as a 37-year-old who's gone through various things in my life, and I know that that Lakeside title would probably have been better for him, because it would have something he would have carried around for the rest of his life, and it defines him as a player. But that being said, I think he's going to have a good run at Ali Pali. I wouldn't be surprised to see him in the quarterfinals, but I wouldn't have done it if I was him. I would have wanted that title now. 16-year-old, absolutely. I'd have done exactly what Luke's done.
You said you can see him getting to a quarter final. I agree with you, by the way. We've seen him post astronomical averages on the Dev Tour here at the Motor Super Series. The way he played in the final against Jean Van Veen, everyone said this is a test, this is the question. Can he get over the question? We all know what happened there. Can he do the unthinkable?
Yeah. If anyone's going to do it, it's him. I don't get carried away with young players. The whole last year, Josh Rock's a quality player, but like I didn't get in where people was thinking it was going and where it is. You mentioned Jan Van Veen, you know, there's been players throughout the years, I don't want to name them all, there's been so many where the expectation's been so high and I've just not seen it, or I've just thought, I'll wait to see how it pans out. Let's see how this pans out, and it doesn't pan out the way we expect. Luke Littler, I think it does. I remember Michael Van Gerwen when he first came on at the age he did. I'm seeing the same things. I think he's going to have a massive career. I see nothing but good things for Luke.
You talk about darts in general, it's never been in a better place. Obviously, again, as we're recording this, the WDF tournament is going on. We don't know who's going to win it, so we can't give you that. Well, we know the women's one, but we can't give you the men's one because that's absolutely wide open. But obviously, for a man that's played in that system a little bit over the last 18 months, obviously, one, I guess you're pleased that the tournament was on because there was a lot of doubt around that. But for someone that wants to go and play there, are you also disappointed that they didn't get a major broadcast deal over the line for this year?
I think it was always going to be a struggle at the amount of lack of tournaments to that magnitude that they've had. The fact we didn't even know when Lakeside was until they're doing the right things. Lakeside's now been announced for 2024. We know the dates. We know when it's going to be. That's the first hurdle crossed. For the first time in quite some time, we've got some clarity. And that's a good thing, that the players know what they're working towards, what they're trying to play for. The next thing I'd like to see is either an announcement of prize money or working towards a broadcast deal. And maybe with that broadcast deal, it'll maybe increase the prize money and the opportunities, but they're going in the right direction, and I'd like to see that.
Within the UK, obviously there's not say a battle, but you've got the ADC and you've got the WDF. Certainly UK-wise, the ADC seem to have the upper hand at the moment in terms of tournaments on the ground, people playing within their system. Are they just that flagship end of season event away from rivaling the WF, in your opinion?
A broadcasted event, absolutely. What do people want? Why do people play darts on more than just in their local pubs or in their Super Leagues? Play on TV. Wherever that is, whatever channel that is. What the ADC do right now, they give you a pathway here to the Super Series. They give you an opportunity to play on TV for a week. Great opportunity. And if they get a broadcasted event where they go, right, our top 32 players, we're going to go do this. But because the problem is at the moment, you go around, you do the circuit, well done, you're number one in the ADC, and what? That's what needs to be answered. What does that mean? As soon as they work out what that means, I think they'll move on to the next level. But at the moment, the WF's got the beating of them just because of that history, that prestige that surrounds Lakeside.
Interesting way of looking at it. If, and this is an if because I don't know, I haven't spoken to Steve Brown for a while, he keeps ignoring me, Steve.
Most people do.
But standard. If they get that broadcasting event, is this almost the same as the PDC and the BDO back in the day competing? Because then you've got two organisations wanting the same space, the same players, and are we going to have divides again?
But who wins? The player.
Yeah.
The player wins, and the fan as well wins, because worst thing you can have is a monopoly. If there's only one organisation, then you do what they say, or off you pop, back to the Super League, as a famous quote would once say. But yeah, you know the one.
You know I'm going in a minute as well after what you just said there.
I think I do. But everyone benefits from that, and it's. I think darts. There's enough people involved in it. There's enough people playing. You're dying to do it, aren't you? There's enough people playing that suggest there's a big enough pool for everybody to produce or promote their own way.
What you said there then, do the PDC have an unhealthy monopoly on the elite level game because there's no rival?
I don't think at the moment it's unhealthy, but it could go that way. I don't think it's there at the minute.
No.
I don't think it's there at the minute. But ultimately, I think we need to have some sort of pathway, and we need to have a clear definition of what that is. And maybe one day we get to that point where organisations work together, because the ultimate is the PDC, and that's what it should be filtering through to. And maybe we get to a point where some of these world tours, like the WF, actually filter into that PDC system.
It's that the issue the PDC have. Look, we know the Pro Tour works and the Euro Tour, but many players have said it, including yourself, that the Challenge Tour doesn't work in its current guise, and it doesn't seem to be going to change or change anytime soon. Is that an issue that they have, that underneath the 128 there are tours there, but the one in particular where everyone tries to play on when you don't get a card at the Challenge Tour is not working?
The PDC, it says it in the title, Professional Darts Corporation, and the PDC are an organisation. They're a company. They're promotion. They're not a governing body. Their job isn't to engage lots of people in darting activity. There's other bodies for that. Maybe it's just they need to work with those so that they don't have to focus on the majority, because they don't want the majority. That's not what their focus is. The focus of the PDC is to promote the game for the benefit of the PDC. If the game grows alongside of it, jackpot. Everyone's a winner. People like the WDF and the ADC will benefit off the wind and the tail that they're putting forward. But ultimately, their job is to promote the elite of the sport. And when you talk about the people in the Challenge Tour, you know, we've got 128 tour card holders and 64 to 1 to 8 aren't accommodated for. So are they really going to accommodate for another 900 people? It's not their job. They are the Professional Darts Corporation, and they focus on the professionals, and maybe what they need to do is just work closer with those other bodies to let them manage the non-professional side of the game.
Calendar's out for next year. Premier League, Matt's already told us, no change. It's going to be as it is. Were you surprised? I know you were quite critical of the Premier League in its current guise, the same as I have. I won't hide that I get it from the fan in the venue. It's brilliant, but I don't think it is for the viewer at home. Were you surprised that they haven't tweaked it in any way?
Yeah, especially when we got the emails. The emails were going out to the fan account saying, give us your feedback. I mean, that tells me that, it tells me one of two stories. Either one, they didn't listen to the feedback, or two, the feedback's not what we think it is, and maybe, I mean, I watched the interview you did with Matt Porter, and he said that they read the fan feedback, and maybe the fan feedback more on the hardcore fan is different to a casual fan who just wants to click darts on. We watch darts, whether it's a Pro Tour, a Challenge Tour, so we'll be a little bit more critical of what it is, but maybe do I call it the armchair fan? The casual fan? Maybe they actually quite like seeing just the best of the world and taking on, because, I mean, I used to love the Intercontinental Championship.
I'm with you.
But I'd sit up and I'd watch it, and I'd watch the Intercontinental belt, the US belt, the European Championship, and then when it got to the main event, I weren't that bothered. But that's because I'm not an elitist follower. And by elitist follower, I mean, as soon as Anthony Joshua fights, we've got 2 million boxing fans and experts. Conor McGregor fights in the UFC, and everyone, the World Cup comes on, and all of a sudden everyone's a football fan. Them sort of fans, maybe they're the ones that like it in that format.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. The Masters is now sandwiched between two Premier League nights, where traditionally the Masters was the curtain raiser for the new season. Does that take something away from the Masters being sandwiched between two Premier League nights now? Yeah,
do you know what I'd like to see? I'd like to see the format change for that. Since the WDF's abandoned the old Masters format, maybe the PDC should adopt it, which is set play, but best of 3 per set. Give us something different. I think we've got too many just leg play tournaments.
Top 32 and rank it?
I wouldn't go top 32 with the ranking unless you're doing some form of qualifier.
Yeah.
But I would like to see 32 players in it, but I'd also like to see a qualifying option in there as well.
Talk about yourself, because your 2023 season has been brought to an abrupt end because you're due for some surgery.
Yes, I'm not looking forward to that. Massive needle phobe. And I mean phobia.
Yeah.
I've learnt a lot thanks to the PDPA, who's helped me through with what we've been doing and getting a lot of therapy in there. They've given me 20 hours of funded therapy, which can't thank them enough for that. Really have looked out for me on that side. And needles, like, there's a fear and then there's phobia. I go into phobia.
Yeah, I don't have that issue, as you can all see.
Yeah. But by phobia, what I mean is an unconscious reaction. Like, I'll go into a room where there's a needle, and I basically go into what can only be described as an epileptic fit. Like, the whole body starts shaking and, like, literally jumping. My legs are moving, sweats are going. So, and I've got to take 4 to have this treatment. So, we'll see. We'll see. I'm going to give it my best, but I have recently beat it. I gave it a go, and they've gone to a specialist centre. We managed to get 1 injection in, so hopefully we'll crack it. But yeah, I'm not looking forward to it one bit, and it's going to make Christmas a little bit uncomfortable, but it's going to make things a little bit easier for me.
Is this going to affect your playing early in 24? What's the kind of recovery time for this?
Hopefully not too long, but we'll see. I'm hoping to play in Romania. That's my first target next year.
It's the end of January.
It's the end of January, yeah.
See, look, I do know WDF events well now.
See, there you go. See, it's only because it's on in between the adverts at Lakeside, but yeah, you've seen it all. And the Toto Dutch Open from the 1st to the 4th of January. Yeah, so, but yeah, I'll hopefully go into Romania. That'll be the first one. Obviously, I've got to try and still fit in around my schedule. Yeah. Which makes things tricky because I want to get to Lakeside, but luckily I've managed to get out and do a few this year, and I've put more than half the points on the board with very limited play, so it makes me excited to know that if I start practicing and I start playing a bit more regular, what can I do?
It's quite a thing that you've done here, because I remember talking to you probably beginning of this year, certainly the first quarter of this year, where you genuinely didn't know if you were going to be able to play again, full stop, to now having that dream of going to Lakeside.
I did say to you at that time that I said I want to try and do something, but I know it's going to be short.
Yeah.
I know it's not going to be long. And since then I've also started to build up a nice career in the media side and punditry. It's now starting to get bookings at Sky Sports in the studios down there, which is a good step forward. I'm going to be getting some other bookings coming up with other broadcaster in the near future as well. You saw by the smile on my face that I can't quite say what it is, but I've got some good stuff coming up. And I don't want to lose that now. And I'm in a position, like, the wheel won't stop turning because I'm not there. Someone else will just jump in and I'll lose that position. So for me, it's not a full-time thing at all, but I want to have that moment. I want to win something big, and I've had a lot of support, an awful lot of support, and I want to give the people that have supported me something that we can share together.
So it's one last chapter in the Matthew Edgar playing career then?
I say that, but who knows what the future holds. If things go quite well, if the pain subsides, I'm painkillers and all sorts all the time. It really is tough. But on the same aspect, this is another thing I can give you here. Just to prove that my decisions for not going to the PDC Pro Tour are nothing more than my own personal decisions. I got approached by a sponsor not too long ago, and they offered me £30,000 as a guaranteed wage with no payback, so I kept to keep all my prize money if I'd have gone and done the PDC Pro Tour this coming year. And I'm not going to Q School. So that just sort of tells you where I am in my head. It's not a decision motivated by anything other than my own personal feelings.
Matt, it's an absolute pleasure to have you on, but before I let you go, who will lift the Sid Waddell Trophy on the 3rd of January?
Humphreys, Van Gerwen or Anderson? I'll go with 3.
Well, one's in the top half, so if Anderson's getting to the final from the top, who wins that semi-final? Because they're on a collision course. We all
You're
know
not going to let me do it, are you? You're not going to let me do it.
This is what I do.
Van Gerwen.
So we've got the El Clasico final that I think everyone wants.
Van Gerwen takes it.
Matt, absolute pleasure as always.
Cheers, Phil.
Introducing the Paddy Power World Darts Championships.